Hi, thank you so much for making time for Klexical and agreeing to do this interview. First, could I just ask you to briefly introduce yourself?
I am Dawn Avery. My Indian name is Yelihogwats, and I'm a composer and a musician originally from New York.
Thank you so much. So, just to start off with our first question, I was wondering what your initial inspiration between your composition is.
So I think that it's usually about spirituality, and I'm also really interested in sound. So a lot of times my pieces will have a spiritual um, kind of storytelling, even if people don't know the whole story. For example, if I write, I recently wrote a piece about the eagle flying. Well, there are hundreds of spiritual teachings on the eagle flying, especially from my tradition that I was, honored to learn. And then also sound, I got to work with John Cage at the end of his life and Henry Brant, and the way that they experimented with sound, and Dean Drummond, like there were a lot of people who were experimenting with sound that I just loved. And notice how those are all men that I worked with mostly, right? And Bernadette's speech a little bit. So
Okay.
um, I like to use indigenous soundscapes
Hmm.
in my music, and also sounds that sort of reflect in my mind the cosmos in some ways,
Wow.
or the story, right?
Yeah. Could
Mhm.
you explain or explicate a little bit more about what the indigenous soundscape is?
So there are a lot of native composers now, classical composers, which is so exciting and
Yeah.
finally being noticed and programmed. And I hope that continues. I think it will because they're really good composers. But indigenous soundscape for me, for example, I like to use coleño, where you bounce the wood of your bow on the string to make different rattle sounds.
Hmm.
And you know how some string musicians can really make it more even, like have it with specific sixteenths, or so that it can actually sound like a rattle, or the sound of harmonics with seagulls, the repeating harmonics sometimes reminds me a lot of the winds or the cosmos, the creator, and the four winds. Um, those are a couple. Oh, the drum. So
Hmm.
a lot of interesting things that you can do for the drum. Now in Hollywood for years, the drum was signified by, uh, the terrible 4/4 with fifths. Ba ya da da da, right? It was just
Hmm.
terrible. But it's much more complicated than that
Right.
for
Yeah.
us. So I like to have the drum. I can have it in the bass line, but I could also have it in Colenio with a whole orchestra section playing it, or the wind as the brass and winds breathe into their instruments, or the little clicking of the sounds of the keys. I love that sound because it reminds me of ancestors walking on the earth, like that we
Oh,
hear their little footsteps.
I love that. Oh my gosh. That's so
Yeah. And I appreciate that I've learned how to really listen,
mm,
right? I'm sure you're going through that too with in school. You have to listen so carefully. And I
yeah.
think with the composers I got to work with, I really got to listen. And then in the native tradition, to really be in nature and listen to what we're being taught, what we hear, what each sound means. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful process.
That is so beautiful.
Mhm.
Could you share a little bit of what your creative process looks like?
Yeah, I love your questions. They really got me thinking. So, my creative process, a lot of times I start with a theme.
Hmm.
So, for example, I've been writing a lot of orchestral and large chamber ensemble short pieces that are like land acknowledgments for the tribe upon which the orchestra is playing. So the orchestra will play, they'll actually recite the tribal names, which I think is so special because you're invoking those ancestors and also honoring them and honoring the natives who still live there.
Hmm.
And then, but within the piece, then the whole piece is really about honoring the land and the ancestors of those people.
Hmm.
So for that, I have a very specific purpose and very specific sounds I want to have. Um, and I like having a theme or a purpose. I do.
Mhm.
Someday I'd love, I guess it would be fun maybe to have the luxury to just write music, just to write music. I don't do that often now because I feel like there's so much that I've learned that I would like to share.
Mhm. Great, thank you. Um, about your music and the creation and the cosmos, are there any of your pieces that you want to share that really explores those themes?
There's a piece that I wrote about the grandmothers that was commissioned by Salt Bay Chamber Fest,
Hmm.
and they did a beautiful job. And I use a lot of the 20th century techniques that I mentioned
Hmm.
for very specific reasons. And it's about the grandmothers. So it's Asun Deneka Galakwa, so grandmother moon. And the grandmothers, the elder grandmothers, are, we're losing a lot of our elders and a lot of our language, a lot of our culture. But the elders are working triple time to teach as much as they can before they pass. So what I've noticed is every time one elder passes, the other elders get together and teach even more. It's sort of beautiful, but there is an urgency
Hmm.
to teaching this information. So when I wrote this piece, I really thought of one of my women grandmother elders,
Hmm.
and I thought of the grandmothers, all the journeys they go through, like the sorrow when they see the kids taking the wrong path, or the sorrow when somebody passes that was such a great, important cultural leader, but then also their joy and their enthusiasm. So the piece is really about their whole journey.
Hmm.
And it does feel, I mean, although it's all connected, motivically, there are things that connect it and sounds. You really do feel like you're going through a story. So
Hmm.
if I was going to listen to one, I think I would listen to that. And there's a beautiful YouTube video of it from that Salt Bay Chamber Fest's performance.
All right, great. I'll for sure 100% take a listen to that. That sounds interesting. Um, did you say that they talked during the performance? Is that
Yeah, so I do have the musicians speak a lot in the performance, and it does make them, makes us nervous, right? A lot of people don't like to talk,
yeah.
especially classical musicians. But when what I've noticed is, well, first of all, I always send an audio file because Kaniènkeha is a very difficult language. The Mohawk language is very difficult to say and to read because
Mhm.
it doesn't look like what it sounds like. So I send an MP3 or I'll coach people. They can call me anytime and I'll help them. But everyone that I've taught a word or two to
Mhm.
has really enjoyed it and done an amazing job with the words. And there's nothing like evoking an ancient language. Those vibrations are really important to have on our land
Mhm.
because I think we've all been decolonized, right? Everybody.
Mhm.
So in that decolonization, we've lost some of the higher frequencies, some of the older frequencies, and language can really evoke that. So I appreciate when people are, and to hear someone speak Mohawk is just so wonderful.
Could you teach me a word?
Oh, yes. Okay. You could say, let's say, how are you? Which,
Okay.
skana,
Skana,
goa,
goa,
gong,
gong.
uh-huh.
Okay.
Skana, goa, ga.
Skana, goa, ga.
Perfect.
Okay,
So
great.
what it really means, though,
Yeah.
is skana means peace,
Hmm.
goa means a lot of, and ga makes it a question. So our whole society is based on peace. So if I ask you skana goa ga, and you say, yeah, yeah, no, I'm not peaceful, then as a Mohawk woman, it would be my responsibility to help you find peace or find out what's wrong, or to
Hmm.
find someone to be there for you to
Oh,
help you find
okay.
peace.
Well, that's such a beautiful way of asking how are you?
I know.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you. I was also wondering if you, as an female composer composing, music based off your indigenous language or culture, if you face any barriers and how you've sort of overcame them or struggled through them.
Well, it was so interesting in your questions that you mentioned to me about what women composers did you know? And so
Mm-hmm.
I am an older composer, and I was thinking, I never consider myself a woman composer. I'm a woman and I'm a composer. I never think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But indeed, there were challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in conservatory and in my early career in New York, I really remember three main composers that were women:
Mm-hmm.
Joan Tower,
Mm-hmm.
um, Anne LeBaron, and there's one other who I can't think of right now, but and for each of the composers, I could probably name 10 right off the bat, men, male composers.
Right, yeah,
And the thing that I think is also a problem is that a lot of the women composers have not been recorded. They need to be recorded. So
right.
there's this cellist now, Wilhemina Smith. She's recording a composer who had works played all over, beautiful composer,
Mm-hmm.
woman, who studied with Dvorak, who was a cellist in her own right. And she's recording her music. It has never been recorded. And she's from the early, in, I guess, mid 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of amazing how many women have never been recorded. And I'm so glad that people are starting to seek them out. And
Mm-hmm.
we've had hundreds, there are hundreds of women composers in every decade. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
even talking every century, right? And
Right.
people don't even know that. That just shocks me.
And
So
it's so overlooked, I think.
they really are. When you asked me the question about them, I started doing more research to see like how many, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of the older ones. I know a bunch of the very newer ones, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the in between I didn't always know. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Right,
So now
yeah.
I'm like, I want to research some of them.
I was so oblivious to it. Like I could name so many male composers, but like once you asked me for a female one, I like can stutter. I'll
Right.
stutter. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Even in the Baroque period,
Yeah.
medieval times, we had women composers. I mean, it's
Yeah.
remarkable. Yeah. And then you
Especially
asked for some that were overlooked. There are just so many because there aren't recordings.
right. Yeah.
So, I mean, like Ruth Schoenthal, I think hardly anybody knows about her. And she was in New York when I was there, and she was a brilliant composer. And she was very intelligent. How she explained things was so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Barbara Asiganak, she is in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and I think her work is really extraordinary. Now, she lives in a very, she likes to live in a cultural way doing her ceremony, so sometimes she's not as reachable.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm liking now that's happened is that, like, even with the grants,
Mm-hmm.
now they're having people just record their music, and
Mm-hmm.
then they don't have to make an essay or, jump through hoops because some of the people from other cultures don't necessarily have access to all that.
Right. Yeah.
So I really like that. But the women still are not getting always as much attention as the men still today.
I know. And it's always been so perplexing for me because I always felt that women were painted as like these gentle creatures that are more connected to music. And so
Mm,
how it's the opposite, at least the way they're represented in music, is
yeah,
crazy to
that's
me.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Even when you think about Italy in the Renaissance time, I mean,
mhm,
all those female orchestras and choirs and right, there were like women's groups of
mhm,
musicians that were phenomenal. So there were composers too.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
crazy. I guess talking about other struggles, how about just as modern classical composer in general, how have you found some struggles with being a modern
So
composer?
I just always loved modern classical music. Like
Hmm.
I was first introduced to it in high school.
Hmm.
And my father, who is the Mohawk side of me, is a jazz drummer. So he played with Lenny Tristano of the Cool School. So that was sort of um, an offshoot of bebop. So he was always into unusual music too.
Hmm.
And I think that the challenges, for a while, the concerts that were done in New York were like rock concerts, the
Hmm.
new music concerts. It was amazing. Like it'd be standing room only. I don't really
Wow.
see that much anymore,
Yeah.
and I wish you did. And I do think that I do notice that people really love the music when they're exposed to it. They're just not exposed to it.
How do
So,
you think we can make more people exposed to it?
yeah, I know. I think that is like the best question of all. So, I think it's really through education, but a different kind of education than maybe what we're doing. Because
Mm.
a lot of orchestras are fantastic. They bring a concert to the school, or they bring the school and buses to come hear a concert. But I think that um, when you get people younger to listen to other sounds, it needs to be also experiential on another level,
Mm.
like to hold and play the instrument, which some places do that, or to really talk about specific sounds or specific lifestyles, or just to make it more of an experience than sitting in a seat quietly listening to the music.
Mm.
So, and I do think that people listen on a lot of different levels,
Mhm.
and maybe even more so now. There are
Mhm.
a lot of children that we have found that are listening. They listen with their body. They listen, they listen in different ways than what we're used to.
Mm. What do you mean listen with their body?
So I worked with autistic children for a while, a long time ago, and there were several kids who would just start moving as soon as they heard music. They wouldn't
Uh-huh.
they wouldn't sing it, they wouldn't clap to it, they wouldn't have any rhythm, but their body responded to it.
Okay.
Then I've heard some kids tell me of what the music reminded them of visually, but I've also heard some children tell me what the music felt like in their body.
Wow.
It's nice. So I
Like a
think that we don't
sensation?
allow always for all those different ways of hearing.
Yeah.
But I do think it needs to be more experiential.
Mm. Okay.
And right now, you know, Native women composers are getting work, and Native composers are getting commissions. Like we're all getting work because right
Mhm.
now it's fashionable. Same thing with some of the Black composers who are like phenomenal, right? And which is nice. But my hope, and I think it will happen, is that composers will be programmed
Mhm.
in every concert series, right? It won't just be all white men. There'll be, you know, some women, there'll be different races and cultures.
Mhm.
And I think that has gotten more popular,
Mhm.
and I hope it continues. For a long time, we just had like all native composers concert.
Right.
And that's great because it gets us out there. You get a recording, you know, but ultimately, that's not really what we want,
That's yes. I
right?
do feel like even with programming, with a variation in gender or race, um, I feel like it anything other than like Beethoven, that it feels like they're they're oh my gosh, what's the word? Programming, like the regular works and then the diversity works, if you know what I mean.
Yes, that is a token. It
Yeah, it's
still
a
feels like a
token.
token.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping one day people will see them standing alone without the tokenism, and
Hmm.
it'll just be part of a program.
Yeah.
And again, the only way that can happen is if the music is out there,
Hmm.
if it's recorded, if the scores are available. So there is a lot of that. Now, also, music has changed so much,
Mm.
which I do think is helping people. Like I think the younger generation, and you'll know better than me, obviously, but um, is much more open to different types of sounds in their music.
Mm.
So they'll bring in world music, they'll bring in jazz, they'll bring in hip hop, they'll bring other styles really intelligently and beautifully
Mm.
into their classical composition. And I think that helps to relate to more people.
Hmm.
And then when I was a composer when I was young, I could have never made a living as a woman composer. And
Mm,
the few men who did, um, they were all in competition with each other. So there was
right.
no way they were going to let a woman in there, just maybe three or four.
Uh-huh.
But now there are several great women composers and male, and I don't really see people saying, oh, that's a woman, that's a man. I
Mm,
could be wrong about that though, because I'm probably seeing it from a different place. But so I think that's like one of the emerging trends
hmm
is this fusion
hmm
and speaking from your own story instead of trying to tell other people's story. So
mm,
in the past, we'd have programmatic music, for example, and we would tell a historical story of people that weren't even our people.
mm,
So now there's a different type of heart and historical connection to some of the music that's coming out.
mm.
And
Yeah,
I think that makes a difference, right, on how people hear it.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
With the idea of new sounds and something I've talked to other composers about is how AI and more computer, sounds are like helping them compose, is emerging with new technologies. So I was just wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, I've seen some people create whole pieces using AI
Hmm.
and and they sound great and you can't really tell completely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay.
Which that's disturbing. Now not an orchestra, I haven't really heard that yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Hmm.
So, and it's people who don't know music, have never studied music, but they are listening and we are, you do have to keep up with the times. AI
Yeah.
is here. It's not going away. And
Mhm.
I think that we will learn how to use it responsibly. And I think it'll be very beautiful when the time comes. I hope that we don't give up our own creativity. But
Mhm.
when electronics came out, and a lot of synthesizers came out, people thought it was awful and it would ruin contemporary music. Well, it didn't. The really great composers who are creative, who had something to say, used it in a beautiful way, not in a superficial way. So I think ultimately that'll happen with AI. I am a little shocked by how much you can create with it
Mhm.
and not really even know what you're doing.
I so agree. The thing that's more scary to me about AI and music composition or music performance even is that because music feels something so inherently human that it's crazy to me that a computer can generate generate it.
Yes. I think that's exactly the core issue with
Right,
it, that it feels soulless on some level.
right.
And I
But
know that when my pieces are performed, a lot of the audience starts crying.
hmm,
So people do feel it. Like our hearts aren't shut down
right.
because of AI. And sometimes I wonder, well, are people going to shut down and not be used to it anymore? I don't know. But I think
Yeah.
then when they do recognize heart, they're going to know.
Okay. I really hope so.
Me too.
Yeah.
But there's people like you in the world. That's awesome.
That's so sweet. Thank you. Um, I was also wondering if there are any other initiatives or things that Klexical can broadcast to whoever is listening, um, that helps with, modern classical music accessibility.
Oh, let's see.
Mm-hmm.
I've been running a world music program at a college forever. And
Okay.
so what I notice is that one way in, there's so many ways in, but one way in is to look into your culture and see who's writing from your culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you'll hear a Japanese piece with some Buddhist bowls, or you'll hear a Chinese piece um,
An
with some of the
urban?
string instruments,
Yeah.
right? And and that to me can at least get you started, get you inside there.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if I answered your question. Is that?
Um, Definitely part of it. I was also wondering if there are any like organizations, maybe like the one that you're running, that we can help um make more
Ah,
public. Hmm.
well, the American Composers Forum is doing a lot of awesome educational things that are free. They have composers from all over, all different types of composers, which is so nice. Because
Hmm.
the definition now of like contemporary classical is very different than what it used to be.
Right.
And I think a lot of people don't know that. Um, I also like to, a lot of my concerts are almost like a ceremony or they have visuals behind them.
Mm.
I've added that so that people can hear that. So sometimes that's a way in for people who aren't used to.
Yeah.
So, you know, um, yeah, that's a good question. I'm sorry, I can't totally answer that
No,
for what.
that's an amazing answer. Thank
Yeah,
you.
because even my husband, who's not really into even classical music that much,
Mhm.
I find that without knowing a little bit about it, I think it is hard for people to listen to it. Some people.
Did
But
you
people know
say
everything about rock and
classical?
roll, right? And then they'll,
That is true. Did you say classical music in general or
yeah,
modern
classical
classical?
music in general. He
That's
loves my music, and I explain it to him, and he sees me writing it. So because he gets to experience part of it,
hmm
then he can enjoy it. Or if he's seen friends that I've performed with, because then it's alive. So I
mm,
think the experience needs to be there still for people to get in, to come into it.
for sure. Yeah, actually, I earlier this year, I think it was in January, the New York Phil was programmed to play Shostakovich 10.
Mm.
And I mean, oh my gosh, amazing symphony. And actually I'm playing it now, which is so exciting. But
Oh,
the way that I think they tried to make it more accessible, they had a movie playing in the background that was sort of about like Stalin and the way Shostakovich felt about Stalin, which totally, I mean, even me like made me understand the piece better.
interesting. Yeah, and we are a visual world.
Hmm.
That's part of why I love studying with Cage too, because
Mm.
he really taught me to hear every sound.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes I got a little neurotic about it, like I have to hide clocks and stuff in the old days, but we don't use that. We don't use our listening or our hearing as much as we do visual. So that is
right,
smart to do some visual. And I know some people argue against that because they say, well, that's not what the piece is about, or, but you know what? There is some of that in there because when we write, we're not writing in a bubble. We are writing in our historical time. And that is
right.
always represented in our music, whether we know it or not.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay. Well, thank you so much. That was the last question. Or one more question for
Yeah,
you.
sure.
Um, is would if you would be comfortable with this being basically
Oh,
republished?
yes,
And
that's
okay.
fine.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, republished in a book or podcast, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you
I
so
think what you're
much.
doing is great. Thank you so much.
No, I really, really appreciate your time.
I'm going
I've
to send you a
never
violin piece too.
Oh my gosh. I really hope I can play it because I could have it on classical and everything. That'd be amazing.
Okay, I will send you that.
Thank you.
All right. I'll
Um,
send you a couple actually.
oh, that's so exciting. Thank you. Wait, do they have recordings too? So I can
Actually,
pick
yeah.
up.
Would you
Okay.
like that? Because there was a
Yes, I
professor who
would.
hired me last year to do a violin recital.
Mhm.
So I'll send you that.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
exciting. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
I
How
will
lovely.
get back to you for that for sure.
Nice. All
Thank you
right.
so much. I really appreciate your
So what
time.
music are you working on right now?
Right now, well, I'm playing pretty basic repertoire.
Of
Um,
course, you have
I'm
to.
I'm playing Mendelssohn. There's this competition at my pre-college for that, which is coming up in December, the very
Oh,
beginning of
soon.
December. Yes, it feels so soon all of a sudden, and it's like
Yeah.
just the end of October. Some Bach, of course, and Beethoven,
No.
it's the three B's.
Yeah,
Or
the three Bs. But I mean, they are great.
they are great.
They are great.
But
You learn a lot from them. And there's other great too, so yeah.
what you said earlier actually about looking for composers and like your culture, I recently just played this Korean traditional piece.
Oh,
It was really it actually did. I feel like I understand what you mean by like being able to hear much more clearly and just looking deeper into that sound world because there's
oh,
definitely,
that's so
extended
nice,
technique.
Hannah.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was great. Um,
Yeah, because we have cellular memory. There's a lot of studies about this, and sound can really trigger cellular memory.
wow, oh, what I don't even know what that means.
Cellular memory is when we bring the memories in our system from other generations.
That's so
And a
great.
lot of times sound can trigger cellular memory.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so nice. That's so nice that you did that and that you experienced that. That you
It was
experienced
really
deeply.
great.
It's fantastic.
Yes, I really I want to get totally more into that.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's so nice.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
thank you for doing this. I really appreciate you. If you ever need anything else, let me know.
I really appreciate this. Thank you so much. I
Mhm.
will get to you about those violin pieces because I really want to know.
Okay,
Um,
actually, I'm going to do it now so I don't forget.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I
Yeah, I might have to
will.
put it in a Google Drive, the recording.
Oh, that's totally
That's
fine.
okay, right?
That's
Okay.
better for me, actually.
Okay, good.
Great.
All right. Have a great night.
Have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Goodbye.